So I want to invite Tom Benz to come up and share a little bit more about our time in Romania and Poland, how you might be involved in it. And I'd love for you to introduce our guest as well, Tom. While Tom's walking, a reminder that there are Lenten hearts down there on the bulletin board, all of our children. So grab a couple of names, pray for those children during Lent, and send them a card on Easter, tell them you've been praying for them and love them. Over to you, Tom. Thanks.
Whatever other gifts may be resident in Father Andrew's life, the man can drive. He squeezed the last RPM out of 2 different crummy little cars we rented. Wow. Sometimes terrifying tolerances. At Christmas, one of the groups we brought from Ukraine, there was a little girl in that group called Melina. She was 7 years old. She had lost her mother in March of last year. So she was very quiet when she came. I remember clearly her kneeling at this altar, hands across her chest, and how she seemed to treasure that moment. Nancy and I delivered her to Pennsylvania to her host family. She sat in the back seat of our car very quietly, helping. She noticed that every time we stopped the car, Nancy would clear the trash. So the second time we stopped the car, she was clearing the trash and then looking to Nancy for approval. Well, her orphanage, we learned, has been evacuated to Moldova. Father Andrew and I returned Thursday evening. It was Friday evening that Nancy was awakened in the night with a message saying the orphanage had been evacuated, they were in Moldova, and they were starving. Can you please help us? So I was vetting the situation, and finally Nancy said to me, just send the money. I can't stand the thought of that child hungry. And of course, I dutifully did what I was told. In 1999, I was leading a Bible camp in Ukraine. There was a 13-year-old girl in that Bible camp. Her name was Leona. Blonde hair, blue eyes, beautiful child. Had a smile that would brighten a very dark place. During the second week of that Bible camp, I had the opportunity to talk to Leona about her life. And so through an interpreter, we sat on a bench, and she told me that when she was 9 years old, a family wanted to adopt her. And I could see why. Who wouldn't want this child? Why didn't you go? The family couldn't or wouldn't take my little brother, who was also in the orphanage. My observation is every orphan wants to be adopted, no matter what they say. They may have woundedness that will prevent them from saying that, but inside they want a home and a family. Leona gave up her dream life at age 9 to care for someone whom she perceived to be more vulnerable than herself. I was already thinking of leaving my position as a regional director with the International Bible Society to start a ministry targeting these kids. And as I lay in bed that night, the Lord brought the situation to my mind and simply said this to me. At least this is what I felt in my heart. If a 9-year-old girl can give up her dream life to care for someone whom she perceives to be more vulnerable than herself, what will you do about these children? I spun off from the Bible Society and formed the roots of what is now Bridges of Faith. That experience is still like it happened yesterday, that experience of lying in bed. And as we saw people, as we saw children and many others at these borders, I know that I have to respond. I know that Bridges of Faith has to respond. And I, of course, invite you, our church family, to respond along with us. We have with us today Dr. and Mrs. Chris Jarvis. Chris, would you and Gina stand? Chris and Gina were in the process of adopting Sashko. And Sasha's orphanage has, you can say, we're in the process of adopting an 11-year-old boy, has some medical issues. And his orphanage was evacuated to Lviv, which began receiving rockets yesterday. And so I wanted to introduce him to you as one of those families in very real faces of the situations that are on us today. Thank you so much for your support, for your prayers, for your encouragement. Thank you, Andrew, for going with me. He cared for me, especially in light of my recent cardiac event. I don't think I carried anything. But thank you so much, and please continue to pray for these kids and for us as we respond. And of course, we'll be sharing more about specific plans in the days ahead. Thank you so much.